All right. How did I end up with an Epiphone? That's a big question, especially myself having not been a Gibson fan for quite a while. So, part of the story of this is that those have been following. I'm now doing a Black Label Society tribute with my Pantera buds since we haven't been able to find a singer in the last while. So, and gigs are getting offered. We want to play this summer. So, it's part of the reason why we were doing this tribute. Now, I've been needing something that's been more Zakk Wylde inspired of a guitar. Now, I'd been looking at the Wild Audio Odin Grail, for example, for a guitar, and unfortunately, they're like on a 3 to 4 month back order right now. When I went to my local Long and McQuaid to inquire about them, and then there's very limited models of that available in Canada right now. So that was one of the factors where I was considering whether I would go Gibson or, Wild Audio. Now, everybody knows Zakk played, Les Paul style guitars for the most part until the last few years where he's playing a lot of his other models that he has with his own company, Wild Audio. So I wanted something, though, that I could play long-term and also resale value makes me wonder a bit. And I don't have to necessarily have a signature model per se, right? So part of the reason why also is that I really like this new Gibson it's called Inspired by Gibson Custom Shop Epiphone Les Paul Custom, just to make the name complicated. So that's why I ended up with this, is that I wanted something that was, of course, single cut, Les Paul style, and this kind of fit the bill. Now, cost-wise, when I compared this against the Wild Audio one, even though I had to modify this and put in the EMG pickups, this came with the case as well. So they actually evened out price-wise when this was $18.99 plus the modifications, whereas the Wild Audio right now the pricing is like $2,100, but I'm told the price is going to go up even more. So I was like, this seemed to be, and this is in stock, easier to get right now. It's more attainable. So, and then this style, I can play in a lot of other styles, a lot of other music genres and stuff. And I felt like the Wild Audio one is kind of like people see you that's playing that. It's like you're just Zakk Wylde wannabe or something, you know what I mean? Or just Ozzy wannabe. So I thought this would be a better guitar for the long-term kind of use, right? So now, why did I put EMGs in this? I know some people might say, well, you don't have to have EMG active pickups, but it's kind of a preference of mine, but also a gripe against the Gibson passive pickups. Now, many years ago, the story will go back is that I had an '08 Gibson Les Paul Standard, and I had that guitar when I was playing in a band at the time that was more grunge oriented or more classic traditional rock or whatnot. So, and that had the Gibson Burstbucker Pros, I think, at the time. And those pickups had a lot of feedback and a little bit of a ground noise issue, but a lot of feedback and I was playing through a Peavey 6505 plus head at the time in cab. And it was just, I was getting a lot of feedback. So I ended up swapping them and putting Seymour Duncan's in that guitar at the time. So, and then later on, I got rid of that guitar. Now that's the other story, is the reason why I got rid of that guitar is I bought it used, 2010. And by 2011, the neck started warping on it. So apparently this was a big issue in '07 and '08 Les Pauls that with Gibson, is that their necks started warping. And then it was to the point where it couldn't even intonate properly anymore. So I got rid of it. And I wasn't in that group anymore. I was doing other stuff. And so anyway, years go by. 2016, I'm wanting another Les Paul again. I ended up getting a really nice standard Desert Burst. And the top on it was almost like a AAA top. It was beautiful. And that same thing. It was, I think it was Burstbucker's Pros in that as well, or Burstbucker 1 and 2, something anyway. I was getting the same feedback kind of style. And at that point, I think I was playing a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. And I was still getting that weird frequency, that weird feedbacky kind of noise sometimes. Even though I'm using noise gates and stuff, I'm still getting this noise. So I was like, got to put something in. I was big into the Seymour Duncan Blackouts at the time. So that's what I had put in that guitar. because I got in the solderless kit to be able to put them in. And then I had that guitar for probably a good year, but I didn't play live with it. I don't think I was even in a band at the time. That was before I had moved back to Calgary. And even during Calgary, right after I moved back to Calgary, I kind of didn't see a point of having that guitar. And I was so worried of damaging it too, because the top on it was just so nice. And you know that with those guitars, you keep them in pristine shape, then the value goes up over time, right? So because of that, I ended up getting rid of it because I really, at the time, I wanted my holy grail guitar, which was this guy, which is my Jackson RR1 USA. So this is my holy grail guitar. And so I ended up with that. So I traded the 2016 Desert Burst for that guitar. But in the last little while, I wanted something else. Now, especially doing the Black Label Society thing, I wanted something, Zakk inspired, of course. And even though in the last while, I haven't been the biggest fan of Gibson because of their whole Play Authentic campaign that they had, and also their lawsuits against Dean, which I like Dean, of course, being a Dimebag fan. I have Washburn Deans. I've got a couple Deans. I got another one I got to do review on as well. But kind of I was on Dean's side through that whole thing, right? Especially kind of like Gibson's put a sour taste in my mouth. But they are one of the two traditional companies between Fender and Gibson, and they do retain their value for the most part. Even though this has Epiphone written on the headstock, I feel like the value of these import guitars has really improved. Now, as much as I would love an actual Gibson Les Paul custom, the pricing on them here in Canada, like $7,500 for this in a Gibson custom shop. And then they recently come out with the 70s production model that they have. Even that's still $5,500. And for me nowadays, I just don't spend that much money on guitars anymore. Like a couple of grand, I'm okay with, right? Like the value of my Jackson USAs is to the point where I don't even take them out of the house anymore, right? Because at one time at a gig, somebody tried to walk out with one, and I ain't going to go through that again with a really high-end guitar, right? So that's why like something like spending a couple of thousand on a guitar like this is much more, especially if it's playable, it plays well, and, keeps his value somewhat. And of course, it looks great, right? And it's got the open book Gibson headstock on this. So I was like, yeah, it's got to work. It's going to work for me, right? And of course, the respect has grown very greatly for the overseas quality, which has been really good, right? And in a way, it's dipped down a bit, I think, for the USA stuff, especially myself having had my history of having a bad Les Paul in the past. Kind of, puts a sour taste in my mouth, and kind of it's like, ugh. But I know this guitar over time will retain somewhat of its value, and of course plays the part and has the traditional look to it. So that's part of the reason why I ended up with this guy. And so far, I've really enjoyed it. The only other modification I might do on this is put on locking tuners, because I'm not the biggest fan of just regular tuners on a non-Floyd guitar. Even though you don't do a bomb or big dive bombs on this, we all know how unstable the G string on these can be. But I use Big Ben's nut sauce and stretch out the strings really well. So I've gotten used to having, Les Paul standards in the past. So this custom's not much different, even though it's an Epiphone. But anyway, that's it for now. Here's a couple of audio clips because I know people like my pickup comparison videos. So this is going to be the stock pickups versus the EMGs in it. Just a few examples, just something if people are really curious about how much of a difference this guitar has with EMGs in it. So anyway, till next time, try it on. Take care.